Now let's look at manufacturing costs. Manufacturing costs consist of cost of activity and processes that convert raw materials into finished product. And another name for manufacturing costs, we call it product costs. There are three major costs under manufacturing costs. The first one, let's look at direct materials. So direct materials means the cost of material that are used directly to produce a product. For example, if you produce furniture, the cost of the wood that you use to produce the furniture, we call it direct materials. And if you are producing car, the cost of steel, we call it direct materials. If you produce cake, the cost of flour, we call it direct materials. All right. Now let's look at the second type of cost. We call it direct labor. Okay, direct labor. So direct labor means the cost of labor who directly produce the products. For example, the wages of factory workers. Remember the workers in the factory who touch the product physically? The assembly line workers, they are the one who produce the product directly. Okay, so we call it direct labor. Now, the last type of manufacturing cost, we call it manufacturing overhead. Okay, so there are three types of costs under manufacturing overhead. We have indirect materials, indirect labors, and other manufacturing costs. So indirect materials, what does it mean? Indirect materials are the costs that are not directly used to produce the product. For example, when you have some super glue inside the products, the cost of the super glue we say is indirect materials. Or the cost of the oils or lubricant in the products, it will be indirect materials. The cost of tapes or other small supplies we use in producing the products, we call it indirect materials. So normally in the indirect materials, these costs are very small. It is not significant, and sometimes it cannot be seen. So it will be indirect materials. Now, the next type of cost under manufacturing overhead, we call it indirect labor. So indirect labor include the cost of the labor who are not directly produce the product. Okay, so they work in the factory, but they are not the one who produce the product. For example, we have the factory security guards, those people who make sure that the factory is safe. So they are not the one who directly produce the products. Or the factory janitors, those cleaning ladies who clean the factories. Okay, these wages that we pay to them, it will be under indirect labor. And then the last type, we call it other manufacturing costs. So other manufacturing costs include the depreciation expense of the machine or equipment, the factory property taxes, or the rent of the factory. Okay, so these costs we call it other manufacturing costs. It's not direct material, it's not direct labors, but these costs have to be incurred in the factory so that the production process can go on. So these costs we call it other manufacturing costs, and it's under manufacturing overhead. Now let's summarize again. Okay, remember manufacturing costs, it will include 3 types of costs: direct material, direct labor, and manufacturing overhead. Remember, direct material are the costs that are used directly to produce the products. Direct labor are the labor costs that we use to pay the wages to those who directly, make the product. And the last type of inside manufacturing costs, we call it manufacturing overhead. Remember, under manufacturing overhead, there are 3 types of costs again: indirect material, indirect labor, and other manufacturing costs. Okay, so let's look at some examples.